the end game, it's like you like to call it, right? Yeah, we're here.
There.
We're here. We're in the end game
almost
now.
there.
We're almost there.
Almost there.
Are we though?
Almost.
I mean, there's a third of the season to go. So think of it from that perspective.
Yeah, a third of a season, and it feels like you still have no clarity on goaltending. At this point for you, is it just is what it is at this point?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no choice. We have two guys that are healthy.
Right.
So it's easy. And then when the other guys start coming back, obviously then, there'll be decisions have to be made, I'm assuming. But as of right now, there really hasn't been any decisions.
Yeah, there's no decisions now, but you're clearly working Freddie back. I mean, Freddie's actually talking to the media now. He's back on the ice. In the back of your mind, you got to be thinking about what the next steps are.
Yeah, we've had a couple of discussions about it, but until he says he's in there, there's really nothing to worry about. So we're happy. Spencer's been great. And, we have in the other guys. So right now, there's really nothing to discuss. It'll come at some point, hopefully. It means everybody's getting healthy. Until that point, there's really no point in, losing sleep over it.
That was Rod telling you that is a problem I welcome. I would love to have 4 guys to choose from.
Can you keep 4 goalies?
I don't know. Maybe.
Can we get to that point where I'm not sitting here
exactly.
going to the waiver wire and bringing that had to be a surreal. I don't know how much clarity you can give me on this. Well, it had to be surreal though to have Kochetkov give up the goal that he did. Ronta comes in, and you hate pulling people during a game. Yeah. But obviously you made the move that you felt was best for the team. Ronta comes in, then he gets hurt, and out comes Kochetkov back in that third period, and he helps you, win the game.
Yeah. That was an interesting game. Again, it's we don't spend a lot of time. You guys, I know how to talk about it. It's an interesting talk about. It's just who can go, who's healthy, who's playing good. It hasn't been a ton of options if you really think about it, and choices are pretty easy. So, to your point, will we welcome when you have to make tough decisions? And that'll be nice.
I guess, right. We talk about these things. For instance, Kotkaniemi hadn't scored a goal since December, and it becomes a talking point, whether it's radio, podcast, broadcast, newspaper. How do you talk to a player about that goes through a slump like that?
Yeah, I don't ever really talk about numbers, because you could be playing really well and not scoring, and you could be thinking you're playing well because you are scoring, but really you're not. So that aside is kind of a secondary issue, but what are you doing with your other time on the ice? What's happening there? Are you creating chances? Are you giving up chances? That's going to really dictate whether you need to talk, And some guys, you have a talk, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to suddenly change anything, but sometimes you just let guys play and try to work their way out of it. Maybe you shuffle the lines, give them someone else that's a little more creative to try to get them out of their slump, whatever it is. But it's not a lack of effort. I mean, he went through a spell here where probably didn't play his best, and or somebody else played a little better. That's what happens.
Speaking of guys who I feel like are ramping up to the end game, and guys who have really kind of finding it. Aho, I just think, has given you a different gear here in the last 2 months. Why do you think he's been able to find what he has found?
Well, he's our best player. He needs to be, like you said, noticeable. I didn't love his last 3 games out of the break, to be honest. It was okay, but there were certainly parts of his game that he needed to, I think, or there's another level he can get to, and he's going to need to. It's just plain and simple. So, but if you just look at the whole, his year has been pretty good, and he's our guy, and we need him to be solid every night.
Joe and I like to joke about, we can tell when you want things to be discussed in like a press conference. Like, you'll bring it up, and you'll remind, like, hey, goaltending was the thing. Then there was the travel. The schedule, those types of things. That's why you mentioned the third of the season. I wanted to get back to that. Did we underestimate the level of travel and the schedule earlier?
Really, I think as far as people were all, what's wrong with you guys? And I was like, hey, there was a point where we had, I think, 9 more road games than home games, and I said, just wait. Just wait. Being at home does matter, and it did. Like, we had that month where we were home for a month.
So has that come?
works its way out. No one's talking about it anymore. But
do you feel it's come to fruition the way you thought it was going to be? That when you got out of that stretch,
I didn't think the road part was going to be an issue, and it wasn't that we played that poorly. Mm-hmm. We just did not get results for how we played. I don't know that we changed much. It's just the goaltending got better.
Sure.
And all of a sudden you're winning, and everyone's going, there wasn't much. If you watch our actual 5-on-5 play, first 20 games is not much different than the second 20. It's just, I think the goalies, they stepped up.
We talked to Jordan about this earlier, and availability, about going back to when he called out the room, not once, but twice at this point, right? And when Joe had asked him about it, he was almost like, yeah, well, we weren't playing that badly, or guys just needed to do X, Y, Z. It didn't sound that way then. So I'm always curious about the juxtaposition of a raw moment like that and then looking back and how you played.
Well, listen, when you're not winning, though, then those little things that you're not doing right are what is whatever you're going to focus on. Mm-hmm. Even though those little things may still be happening later, you don't talk about them because they didn't go in the net or whatever, right? So I think when you're doing things not quite right and they're going in the net, they're going to get magnified, and that's kind of what we're trying to eliminate. You're not going to eliminate every mistake you make. It's just not going to happen. The other teams are too good in this league. But, to Jordan's point, there was things that we weren't doing as a team that we have to do, and I think we've done a better job of that moving forward here.
It's going to either sound obvious or stupid. But the way
from you?
Yeah.
It could go either way.
Either way.
Yeah.
But the way when I watch you guys, and I know that you're playing well, it's 5-on-5, it's puck possession. The second period of the Chicago game, it literally looked like you were on the power play the entire second period. Newsflash, you did not have a man advantage. It was just you had the way that you were at the puck possession.
Until the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Then we gave them a goal, and then it went.
You're more discerning than I am. I paint in broader strokes. Yeah. When I watch the playoffs, that's the way you guys play. You have that intensity to keep the puck in the zone. And again, all sounds very obvious. But when you watch in October and you watch in November, you're like, okay, these two things aren't the same. And maybe that's my overall point about 100%. Ramping up.
No.
That's where I feel like you're ramping up.
In that assessment, it was too much in spurts in the first 20 or so games. And that's what, when you say Jordan's doing it, it's because some guys aren't quite doing it every shift. There's a different way to do it. And no, there isn't.
That's not your standard.
We scored 3 goals in that period. There's a certain way it has to be done. You're not, as we've seen, you're not always going to work out that way, but over 82 games, that's the way you got to do it.